Today's episode is brought to you by Surfshark. Now, this video is not available in your location. Does that sound familiar? If it does, let me tell you why a VPN could be the solution to all your problems. Because a VPN doesn't only increase online privacy, which you need, trust me on that one, it also helps you avoid hackers and helps you access entertainment because the content you see is limited to your geographic location. But if you use a VPN, you can change your virtual location and forget about restrictions and censorship. So if you can't wait to watch Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus or any streaming platform, you can unlock new libraries with a VPN. And if you can't watch a YouTube video in your region, connect to a different location with a VPN. Can't access certain websites or apps through a school or office network? Again, try a VPN. So get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deals/TTD. That's surfshark.deals/TTD. Enter the promo code TTD for 83% off and 3 months free. But now, on with today's show. Now, for everyone in the UK who can remember a time before iPads, iPhones and even sat-navs, Waze or Google Maps, any car journey or indeed hike would involve an Ordnance Survey map. But how did a company like Ordnance Survey digitally evolve? This is a question I find myself asking one day when I was letting my curious mind wander. And one of the favourite parts of my job is when I get thoughts pop into my head like that on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. Usually I can get somebody on the phone to give me the answer. So today, Lloyd Clarke from Ordnance Survey will be joining me today to discuss how, yes, for over 230 years, OS has been mapping Great Britain in extraordinary detail. But he's going to share how the company has developed one of the world's largest spatial databases. Also, the journey that they've been on, and when some of the old products and data sets were scattered across multiple Oracle databases, and when that conflicted with virtualization plans, it essentially meant that running a data center full of tin was no longer sustainable. So I'm hoping he's going to be able to talk as well about how they have completely overhauled their approach to data storage, and in doing so was able to achieve its innovation goals. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can join me and Lloyd Clarke in conversation, who'll be talking about all this and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Lloyd. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi Neil, thanks very much for having me. So my name's Lloyd Clarke. I work for Ordnance Survey and I have done so for the last 9 years or so. I'm in the server and storage operations team where I am the virtualization specialist. I've recently undergone a few projects. So we've architected a refresh of all our virtualization hosts within our on-prem data center. And we've rolled that out, and now we're about to embark on the host operating system upgrade. So that there's plenty going on here at OS. Out of work, I kept very busy with my two daughters. One's just started school and the other's just starting to learn to walk. So it's never a dull moment.
Fantastic. And there's so much I'm excited to talk with you about today. But before we do, I want to take you way back before your life with OS and try and find out a little bit more about how you got where you are today. So can I ask you share your origin story, where your passion for technology came from, what lit the spark, and ultimately what put you on this path that you're on right now?
Sure. So, yeah, historically, I suppose my background is really in sort of customer improvement and the customer support side of things. Pre-OS, I suppose I really got the spark for technology once I started and I joined Ordnance Survey in 2013. I started working in the geospatial database management team, which looks after the Maya database. So that's the kind of the sort of crown jewel of OS. And it's used to derive all of our products. So it's really like a key system within OS. That kind of role was very new to me at the time. So it involved a lot of bespoke tools. So I needed to be able to understand what those tools were, how they worked, and to be able to develop them. So there was some coding involved in that period as well. Over the course of the next couple of years, I moved around to a couple of different teams within Ordnance Survey. And eventually I discovered the world of virtualization and just realized that it was a technology that was so vast and ever changing, no 2 days were the same. And it was just something I could really get my teeth into just because it touched on so many different aspects of technology.
Wow, what an incredible journey you've been on there. And one of the things I always try and do on this Daily Tech podcast is get people thinking differently about the world around them, how technology is transforming areas that they possibly didn't think about before, and also shatter a few myths and misconceptions along the way. And for over 230 years, OS, or Ordnance Survey, has been mapping the UK in extraordinary details. And many listeners will know about you from their driving past and leaning behind the driver's seat and pulling out those big maps. But can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing right here in 2022 and how the company has developed one of the world's largest databases?
Absolutely. So yeah, when I think about the database now, how far it's come in the last few years, it's amazing. It was a concept that was conceived around 15 years ago, and it was because our data was stored on so many different separate databases, and all the storage was spinning disk. And I suppose over the years, it just became a bit of a Frankenstein's monster because all the databases were just all bolted together. That made it very hard to maintain. It wasn't very feasible to have it long-term like that. So we thought we'd put it into a purpose-built central location. Having it in separate databases was just a bit of a nightmare. And thankfully, those days are behind us because, now in 2022, we have a 4 terabyte database, which is backed by Pure Storage's flash array. And it's like I said, that is the database that produces every one of our products, including the master map, which is, the map of Great Britain. So whether it's roads, buildings, pathways, green space, waterways, whatever it is, it's on this map. And only Ordnance Survey can map to that kind of level. So the database itself stores over 500 million features, all individually identifiable. So it's really important that the integrity is maintained and that it's always kept up to date because we've got changes being made to it all over Great Britain every single day. And any given day, we can be writing 20,000 changes back to that, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the world-class storage that Pure provide to us for the back end. Looking ahead, locally, we're still investing in our state-of-the-art data center here in Southampton. This year, we've made around a £1.5 billion investment. It's about trying to keep that local data center relevant to us, investing in it financially, but also, we're a tech company, so we have great partners that we work with. So it's working with them to keep everything running smoothly and up to date.
And what really stands out for what I've been reading about you at OS is you've been on a digital transformation journey like so many other businesses out there. And I read that your old products and data sets were on multiple Oracle databases. And there'll be a lot of businesses listening all around the world that go through very similar challenges right now, maybe at the very beginning of those challenges. And the virtualization plan you had meant running a data center full of tin was just no longer sustainable. So can you tell me a bit more about Ordnance Survey and how you've completely overhauled your approach to data storage with your partner there, Pure Storage, and achieved your innovation goals? Because, as I said, there'll be a few listening at the very beginning of their journey wanting to learn from somebody that's been there, done it, and reaping the rewards right now.
Yeah, exactly right. So we found that, we weren't in a great position back then, and just by involving Pure Storage, it was a game changer to us. It meant that we could do a lot more with a lot less physical hardware. We went from using racks and racks of spinning disks that oftentimes wasn't really being used very much. We invested with Pure Storage, which meant we had less physical space in the data center being used up with racks of storage. We were using much less power, so overall, less carbon footprint, which can be, and the performance was much better than we first imagined. So it was win-win. To us, Pure is leagues ahead because of its performance speed and deduplication levels that we found when we went out for tender originally. But also, we continue to see them today with the actual workloads that are going through the storage. We've recently had a Pure FlashBlade installed in our data, so we've begun transitioning our backup solution to that. So it's another transition away from conventional storage to Flash. So far, really impressive results. We're looking at speeds of probably over 100 megabytes per second, which is, I think, better than we could have hoped for. I suppose overall, we just find that Pure makes the little tasks that we do every single day a little bit simpler, less for us to manage, just manages itself.
And I've got to ask, what were your biggest challenges and who was your support partner there throughout?
Good question. So to deliver the combined GDMS database, it was a particularly tricky time to say. Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't part of the original transition. Otherwise, I might not be here today. I might have thrown in the towel already. But there were lots of challenges at the time, and so many partners were on hand to help with the delivery of it. I think it's safe to say that it wasn't quick and it wasn't easy, but that wasn't down to our partners. That was just the nature of the beast. Trying to amalgamate what we had into what we wanted was an incredibly difficult task.
And I was also reading before you came on the podcast that you can now deploy servers and spin up virtual machines in minutes now. But I'm curious what kind of tangible results that offers you and how much of a difference it has made, not just to yourself, but to your customers too.
Absolutely. So, yeah, this is one of the recent things we've sort of made an improvement on. So it's a huge improvement for our customers. We can deliver a virtual machine now in seconds. I think it's fair to say that it's driven our customers to return to on-prem solutions rather than in the cloud. We can deliver single VMs on a multi-node environment much more quickly than we could before working with Pure. And this isn't only a testament to the technologies, but also it's how we use them. A lot of, they help us configure it specifically for our use, but also, it's the testament to the people around the organization. We're always looking to do things better. And I suppose this is a great example of process evolution within OS. Overall, for the customer, it means less waiting around. So it means they can get on with their job a lot sooner. So much of improvement that historically we've always had 2 data centers. So we had one locally in Southampton and we had one offsite. And now we've been able to consolidate the 2 into just one. So our disaster recovery machines are all hosted in the cloud, but otherwise it's all on-site locally.
And what lessons did you learn along the way? And I suppose also for anybody listening anywhere in the world that find a journey like this incredibly daunting, is there any advice that you'd offer to a business leader thinking of making that same transformation?
I think just go for it. I think the change that we've seen in the ways that we can work is incredible. It makes sense to compare vendors, and we did. And, we evaluated a lot of storage providers early on in the journey, but Pure came out by far the best solution for our needs. Not only the performance that I've mentioned before, but also the level of support that they continue to give us, day to day. We've had more or less 100% uptime for the last decade, which is incredible. And more often than not, they're the ones that flag issues before customers can even notice. So if you're thinking of doing it, by all means, compare all the vendors in the marketplace, but just make sure that Pure's on that list.
So just to bring to life everything that we've talked about today, Lloyd, do you have any examples that you can share that will just help listeners understand how you worked before and how you work now, and just understand the return on investment on a project like this?
Yeah, so I think just by investing in Pure Storage, we ended up needing less disk space due to the GDUP levels. So it was really saving money off from the start without really any more effort on our part. In the old days, we would have racks of spinning disks, some of which were completely unused. It would be bought and it would be commissioned for a project. But of course, that project couldn't start until the storage is ready. But in reality, we'd have no idea how long it would take to get that storage bought, commissioned in the data center, up and running, ready to go. Theoretically, it could just be buying more disks and putting them in an existing rack, or it could mean investment in more racks and more disks. So both of which cost money, and you really don't know how long it's going to take. With Pure, it's always there. It's always there when you need it. It's no additional setup from our end. If we do end up needing more space, we have a kind engineer from Pure come in and put it in our data center for us. So no effort on our end. Speed-wise, it's above and beyond what we had with spinning disks. We simply wouldn't be able to do today what we do if we were still using that kind of spinning disk technology. And don't forget, we have changes made around the clock to this database. And one of the big issues we had was lag. The users would report that they were getting lag during peak times from the database. And then, of course, we had a bottleneck that resulted from that.
So what's next for Ordnance Survey? Do you have a new set of innovation goals? I appreciate you probably can't share too much, but is there anything you can?
Yeah, personally for me, I suppose in my role, I think continuing the FlashBlade backup transition. Yeah. We're looking at 4 terabytes of weekly backup, so huge volumes that we need to transition over. And we are quite early on in that journey at the moment. So there's going to be some exciting times and challenges ahead, but I think we're ready to get that implemented now. As a company, Ordnance Survey, it's got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, both here and abroad. Internationally, the work tends to be more bigger projects, and we're often doing a lot of consultancy work all over the world. And recently we've worked with Zambia, Dubai, Malta, and to name a few. We work with them to try to support the mapping of their existing and also future infrastructure with the aim of tackling some of the biggest global challenges like urbanization and sustainability. So it's a lot of work on planning and just sort of running through real world scenarios. Domestically, we're heavily involved in things like smart cities, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicle infrastructure, the list goes on. And it's those things that we collect the crucial kind of data for. And without that data, these kind of projects just couldn't happen. We recently did a research project on how individuals use OS data, and we found that people in Britain on average use our data 42 times a day, from ambulances, to utilities to transport. And there's no doubt that most of the time people don't know they're using data that OS collected. So it's really important for us to continue to innovate the way we do, but also we need to remember that we're being relied upon as a resource. and we need to keep on delivering like we have been delivering for the last 230 years.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me today. I'm looking forward to hearing from other people who are at the start of their journey and seeing how that progresses and how you might have influenced that as well just by talking to me today. But before I let you go, it's time to have a bit of fun with you now. We began the podcast talking about your origin story, but as we come full circle, I always ask my guests if there was a song, piece of music, movie or book that has inspired, accompanied or just helped them in their career. Do you have anything in mind, a choice and a story that you can leave the listeners with an inspirational note today?
Yeah, so the song I've chosen, a little bit cheesy, so that the lyrics go pure and simple every time. And for me, that was summing up working with Pure for the last few years. I was pretty much a novice coming into this role when I started, and I've been lucky enough to work with some great people, and they've really helped me develop my skills along the way from scratch. And also we get the best out of the product. So the song I've chosen is Pure by the Lightning Seeds.
Oh, great choice. Well, I'll get that added to our Spotify playlist. And for anyone that wants to find out more information about you or Pure Storage, what's the best way of doing that? What's the best starting point?
We are at Ordnance Survey on Twitter if you have any questions or anything like that. We are everywhere else you'd expect as well. So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you can pick your method. And there's some really good videos up on YouTube at the moment. So if you just search for Ordnance Survey, no doubt we'll come up.
Fantastic. Well, I love the journey you've been on here and how you've completely overhauled your approach to data storage with and achieved all your innovation goals. And also thanks to Flash Array as well, the company can now deploy servers and spin up virtual machines in minutes and allow to react to your customers quicker than before. And that is the big win for me as well. But more than anything, just thank you for sharing your story with me today.
Thanks, Dean. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
I learned so much today about OS, and if you enjoyed it as much as I did, I urge you to connect with Lloyd too. He's a really, really nice, genuine guy with so much knowledge on this stuff. And for me, I just loved hearing about how OS has digitally evolved, and when faced with old products and data sets scattered across multiple Oracle databases, and what they did next. Truly inspirational. So kudos to Ordnance Survey for successfully overhauling its approach to data storage with Pure Storage. And the big takeaway here is that as a result of all this, they achieved their innovation goals. But now, over to you. You've heard me talk today. You've heard the guests talk. Now I want to hear about your organisation. Have you been on a similar journey? What lessons did you learn? What would you do again? What would you do differently? And what would you like to share with the international community? As always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. Don't just hit follow though. Send me a message. Tell me what you thought of today's episode. And also, if you want to work with me, if you want to launch your own podcast, you want somebody to take away all the editing side of things and you just record the interview on Zoom, or if you need help with business blogs, thought leadership blogs, all that kind of stuff, check out my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But I have taken far too much of your time already for today, so I will leave you now. I'll be back again bright and early tomorrow in your podcast feeds with another guest. But a big thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.